that actually Jesiz did do well and was when Cassidy managed to
went unkilled, 7-0-11.
Fantastic, fantastic game, and that's why you can't let it through. Wukong being banned out, so something up the sleeves that Alliance have been figuring out against SKE Gaming. Interesting first ban.
I feel like this is something Youngbuck touched on. Because of the prevalence for banning out Svenskeren and Shook, if we see a number of jungler bans in this process, Wukong is basically a de facto jungler now. He's been used multiple times in NA, and I think seeing Elise most likely being the next ban from SK, I think it's a smart pick.
Obviously an early morning for Tabzz, it seems. We're only at 7 PM, don't worry, but he's yawning away over there. Vi, Ziggs being taken away, as well as Cassidy. So kind of standard stuff so far. Wukong really being the only interesting one so far. We'll see what the other 2 bans are. Finally going to come through. You know, Alliance, that came into this obviously weak, having the momentum last week, themselves had a pretty horrific loss yesterday against Gambit. SK Gaming, on the other hand, again dragged the game out, managed to stall it out. CandyPanda seems to be key in that. I wonder if they're going to maybe aim a ban towards him. No, it is going to be the Annie. So
there's 2 things about the loss yesterday. Alliance maybe were anticipating a slightly slower pace of the game.
Yeah.
If they could have got Kayle to the point where he could insta-give people and the Blood Boil on top of all the damage could have made his Righteous Fury work. I think that could have got there. But because you had an Eve jungle and a Kha'Zix mid, Diamond said in his interview he wanted to run jungle Kha'Zix, and they just seen the opportunity to have that very early aggression and you know, snowball lanes early. So Alliance couldn't stall the game the way they wanted to.
Oh, entrance in bans and a pick straight away. Elise taken away, and Wickd does lock in Elise in for Shook, which does target Svenskeren very heavily here, as Youngbuck just predicted.
It makes it very difficult now for Svenskeren to see which jungler he's going to play, and we'll see what he decides to default to. With Kha'Zix still up and available, it is a potential champion, and it sort of fits Svenskeren's playstyle. He likes those aggressive champions. He likes the dueling type of in-your-face kind of champions.
At the moment, Leona and Kayle are being hovered over. nRated used to be famed for his Leona a long time ago, and he has locked it in. He's going to be Kayle. We're assuming for the mid lane for Jesiz.
Yeah, and Gragas being available as well as another potential jungler. Also, knowing that Kayle is most likely going to go in the mid, we'll see whether or not Froggen wants to steal that now. Alternatively, I think we have to think Caitlyn might be another pick. You know, CandyPanda is a little outspoken. He doesn't really like Caitlyn, but he plays a lot of her. And Tabzz has been playing an extremely high amount of Caitlyn games.
Well, hovering over Nivea right now. Not sure whether it's going to get locked in. Don't think it's really a standard counter to Kayle, but we'll see whether he's what he sticks with here, going through his usuals. But this is pretty much what he played in the summer. Well, I say in the summer, but he's typing up a champion, so clearly not sticking with that Lux. See what he does switch across to. Could it be Trundle for Wickd in the top lane? It is a champion that he played actually very well up against the Renekton.
Yeah, he actually only gave up 1 death during the course of that game, and I think the way Wickd played his Trundle as a super beefy tank, he absorbed a lot of spells, a lot of cooldowns. It worked very well to supplement the rest of Alliance. Tabzz and Froggen had all the time in the world that they needed to deal damage, and so far, Alliance is playing very safe. You've got very sort of defensive champions thus far. Kayle is better when you jump onto her because she can intervention and then, you know, protect the teammates. So I quite like what I'm seeing from both of these teams, and I think Gragas is probably a big option that Froggen may be considering.
Well, interesting that Freddy is going to go for Renekton because, as we said, we've already seen Wicked's Trundle beating Youngbuck's Renekton last week, so it's obviously a challenge he thinks he can face up there, but the Pantheon being locked in for Svenskeren.
Yeah, that's going to be their jungler, and this is really the jungler that's grown in recent weeks. So the 4.1 changes specifically to the Spirit Stone, having the ability to get health and mana back. He sustains very well. Pantheon jungle is somewhat reliant on getting snowballs. You kind of need to get kills very early, or at least objectives with that Grand Skyfall. And we've seen him scale fairly well into the late game. Yeah. Once he gets himself like a Warmogs or a Renduins, he can get beefy enough to be a bit of a tank as well as having the
we saw with Impaler, he went with the Randian's Omen in there, managed to get himself tanky. A lot more than actually damage, which obviously we've seen from the other side, from Jankos going pretty heavy on the damage side. Looks like it could be a Gragas potentially here for the mid lane. Would make sense.
I think they have to go this way because there's not a lot of wave clear in the rest of the champions. Orianna, once again, defensive pick, reactive champion. Still got decent wave clear when comboed with Caitlyn. And one of the big mistakes Alliance made yesterday in the game against Gambit is they didn't really have a way of dealing with waves safely. They had to be in fairly close proximity. Once they got pressured, Alliance fell back, and Nunu does nothing in a tower defense situation. He does not offer your team a whole lot. Lee Sin, on the other hand, is a lot more utility. He can get in their faces, he can kick a champion backwards like we've seen Cyanide doing yesterday. So I really like what I'm seeing from Alliance.
Well, Jinx may be the marksman of choice for CandyPanda. We'll see whether he locks it in. He's seemingly pretty happy with that one nRated. Doesn't look like he's going to be changing too much. The discussions between the team happening. Of course, they have 20 seconds, but lots of nodding of heads, which tells me that is going to be the final lock-in.
Yeah, so Jinx, once again, just, super record right now in the LCS. One of the most picked, most successful AD carries, and just because of the damage she offers. And when you combo it with the Leona, that's got the ability to add all of her sunlight stacks from her passive, there's a lot of kill potential there. So SK may want to look for a 2v2 to try and get in Caitlyn and Thresh's face. As long as they don't take too much poke from the range of Caitlyn, I think they'll be in good shape.
We'll see whether it works. Of course, both these teams did have a loss yesterday, so both looking to get one win at least this week in the LCS Alliance. Well, in the guise of evil geniuses last summer, started off very sluggishly, so almost mimicking that, they have put this team together to win things. And, it's a team that Froggen's built. He wanted a team of winners. And at the moment, they're not really showing it, but it is going to take them a couple of weeks to go. And if you actually listen to some of the pro players, they've all said, it's a fantastic team of players. Give them about 5 weeks, they're going to be world beaters.
Yeah, and you hear from them, their own mouths themselves. Froggen saying, the way we were scrimming, the way we were training, our mentality wasn't correct. And I respect them a lot for actually admitting that openly and trying to turn it around.
Well, let's check in and see how you have predicted this match will be played out. According to the votes, Alliance tops SK 68% to 32%. No surprise there.
Not really. I think Alliance in general, their strength is in the individual player ability. And because SK have fairly slow, weak laning phases, I think that's where Alliance can actually pull themselves ahead and then grab control of the game. The matches they have won is because they've grabbed the lead and they haven't let it go.
And what gets me is I'm excited to see Shook on Lee Sin instead of Nunu like he was yesterday. He's a lot more aggressive champion, seems to suit his play style better. We'll see how it works out though, because SK Gaming, they are the team that is the most resilient in the LCS, the longest average game time for these guys. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. On the blue side, on your screens is Alliance and SK Gaming as the red side playing from top to bottom.
I really want to talk about Svenskeren's Pantheon right now and the power that Grand Skyfall is going to open for SK Gaming. Alliance's solo laners of Wickd and Froggen are not necessarily the strongest of roaming players. I think they like to stay in the lane, they like to farm, they like to build up gold and items. And if Svenskeren can apply pressure in multiple lanes with multiple uses of that ultimate, it may force Alliance to be on the defensive fairly early on.
Froggen immediately poking Jesiz there, getting the attack ball on. No dancing back and forward between these two, just skittering back and forward. Doesn't look like we're going to see any aggression or any overlapping late ganks here on attempts to go for any buffs, so it's pretty much everyone standing facing off against each other and a little bit of dancing in the middle.
Yeah, no sweeping lenses either. We've seen yesterday from Fnatic that when they would go in for their invades, they would have a sweeping lens just to clear out any of that vision as they moved into the enemy jungle. So we can most likely anticipate another defensive slow start from both of these teams.
Yeah, well, we just saw the resonating strike coming out from Shook there, just showing that he is there, so it's going to be a blue buff start maybe for Shook, and we'll see whether it is going to be that or whether he's going to try and rotate down. Svenskeren, of course, in there, going to go for the red buff start, so a little taunting from Svenskeren.
Yeah, I think they're well aware of another's position. Once again, Sonic Wave just missing. Not necessarily super important at this stage. Shook's going to be aware of the vision. That's actually quite a smart ward from Svenskeren to basically inform SK Gaming of Shook's movements if he tries to counter jungle or come in for that Wraith camp. So I quite like that little positioning.
You know what? It's not an Alliance game without a pause.
See, we put Froggen on screen like a few seconds and then that's it. Froggen, please.
Froggen, please. Looks like it's Wickd, so he is just going to restart his client at the moment. You can see the refs already told him, who has in turn told us. So we have this direct flow of contact. And again, this time Scott standing in the background, a little bit more dressed.
I think very, very serious faces on the side of Alliance. We just looked down the line, and I think knowing that both of these teams are sitting at the bottom of the table at 2-5, 2 wins, 5 losses, this victory will just put them that one step above everybody else. Just give them a little bit of confidence that they need. And I think Alliance is, in both of these teams actually, in desperate need of a confidence boost considering how their games have been going.
And let me just tell you, every time you see these, you can see the pictures, obviously, you see the admin in there, and he's basically doing this, he's pointing this. What he's telling the team is, don't pause yet. They have to have both teams ready to go. They can't just jump straight into it. So that's all they're simply doing is like, okay, you ready? Everyone ready? Now let's go. Making it fair. You don't want to catch anyone off guard, especially when it's a level 1 at 1 minute 50 in the game. We'll get back into it, though.
Yeah, and it's also like we've got a massive production that needs to be aware of this
Absolutely,
as well.
Yeah. I mean,
there's an extensive amount of rules in there that these guys have to follow, and Hopefully they're all doing it. Well, we are back into the game, and as you mentioned, Shook starting on blue, Svenskeren starting on his red. Shook's actually delaying this one for a few seconds, just waiting for the cooldown on that Sonic Wave. Also quite smart, avoiding one or two of those auto attacks from Golem while he waits for the cooldown.
Yeah, just stepping away. Let's have a look at this straight away. We're seeing Froggen versus Jesiz in the mid lane, Orianna versus Kayle. Both of these kind of strong wave pushers.
Yeah, they've both got very good wave clear. They've also got pretty good, early game damage. But I think Froggen should have the advantage because his ranged auto attacks don't cost mana, and they don't automatically push the wave. As you can see, every time Jesiz CS's with that Righteous Fury, he's putting himself in a dangerous position. If Shook is to come around after getting a red buff, most likely Jesiz is going to be a little bit down that lane, makes it easier for Alliance to set something up.
Svenskaren's taking away that blue. He's now got the double. We're seeing Shook going to have that double buff in a moment. See if either of these go aggressive that early on. I think they're just going to continue their farming train. Ward's being placed out already. No, from Jesiz. Doesn't want to get caught out by one of those kicks. We don't want Lee Sin's flying in towards him, which potentially would have happened. Zap flying past Tabzz there, missing out. So let's focus on this bottom lane. Tabzz and Nyph on Caitlyn and Thresh up against Jinx and Leona combo of nRated and CandyPanda.
Now, the fact that Tabzz and Nyph are both ranged allows them to harass SK's duo a little bit more often. You know, nRated needs to get some levels up on his Leona, and he needs to pick the right time to engage. Leona doesn't offer a lot in terms of early lane presence, but once the threat of a kill is there, obviously she's a lot more daunting, a lot more scary to deal with.
Well, it was a good opening trade for Tabzz there on CandyPanda, sidestepping out that Zam, which obviously slows him down. This time around, though, look at Shook. He knows there's a ward been placed down that bottom, so instead he's going to try and approach him around the side, but Svenskeren is going to find him straight away, pounces on him, puts a combo down, and Svenskeren already putting some good damage onto Shook. Shook's just going to safeguard away to Froggen.
Yeah, Pantheon's one of the few junglers that can actually duel and potentially out-trade Lee Sin at those early levels because he can block auto attacks and because he does have that execution once he's got a few levels when champions get to low HP. So wisely for Shook, he backs away and nothing really comes of that little gank attempt.
And of course this top lane combo, we've seen it already, and it was actually Wickd that won out last time around. And against him, and it's going to be Nyph diving in, nRated, going to try and catch on towards him, gets the stun down. Will it be enough? Has to flash away already, and the Ignite burning on Nyph's taking him very low.
Yeah, so Ignite was used by nRated, and that's what we're talking about. Once nRated feels he's got that kill potential, he jumps in. CandyPanda was taking a lot of damage from Tabzz and a minion wave, so he didn't want to push forward. Flash and Barrier still available for both AD carries if another grab were to land.
Yeah, something we didn't really touch on. Actually, I'm just going to focus on this mid lane because we are seeing the jungler once again laying in wait. Jesiz ward has timed out, so that's why he's playing so cautiously. He's got the ward in the top lane that Pantheon put down. But what I wanted to talk about is this bottom lane, because it's Nyph up against CandyPanda. This is the old duo partnership that honestly spans back to Game.D way back in Season 1. These guys have been together for absolutely years. It's interesting to see how this partnership does against each other.
Oh, they've jumped in on Jesiz.
Jesiz is going to get caught out here. Has he got enough to flash away? No, the Ignite will burn down, and it's Froggen that gets the kill.
That was very good play from Shook and Froggen, and I like the fact that it's Shook that helped secure first blood. He was the person we were talking about that really needs to step up his gameplay to have an impact, and that was a good gank. Jesiz needed to flash away from the Sonic Wave. The fact that he got caught by Lee Sin's Q, that's what sealed the deal and allowed Alliance to pick up that first blood.
As I mentioned, Tabzz up against CandyPanda down this bottom line. Svenskeren is coming down though. He's going to try and come around the side. Tabzz may get pounced on. Remember, Nyph's already used out that flash, which is why he's going to get jumped on.
Wow.
A great play coming out there. And the hook on towards nRated. They're not really going to have the damage to follow it up, but it's a good trade.
That was a brilliant play out of Nyph, saving his life. Not only that, the Zenith Blade missed from nRated as well. So there was two little things working in Alliance's favor, and they're going to hold on to that small CS lead, and most likely going to keep CandyPanda and nRated playing very defensively.
Yeah, Nyph, of course, with that Door and Shield regenerating that health, along with a pot making him sure he gets back up to full health. Wickd up against Freddy once again, back and forth. Freddy has been backed by himself. Double Doran's played here. He should be much better trading against Wickd. Wickd seemingly not quite ready for the amount of damage to come out there.
That was good play from Freddy, just landing all of his abilities plus a nice minion wave there as well. So having a little bit of extra damage into Wickd, but he'll be able to regenerate that fairly easy. And in terms of this matchup, Renekton should beat Trundle early on. In terms of the laning phase, Renekton's a massive lane bully. He's got more damage. They both got good sustain, but I think once the team fights roll around, the strength of that pillar and subjugate should help Wickd become a little bit more impactful.
Oh, Froggen back in that mid lane. He's got the chalice. Svenskeren going looking, putting the wards down. And they're both actually heading up to top. Both junglers could be around that blue area tri-bush.
Yeah, they both, top laners have used their ultimates respectively, Subjugate and Dominus. Freddy comes out ahead because he's got way more HP, and they're going to dive Wickd for this one.
Wicked's in trouble here. He's going to need the help from his jungler, and he's too far away. And that was an easy pickup there. Svenskeren coming straight in, getting the kill.
So counter gank here from SK Gaming, managing to pick up their first kill of the game, and that was just straight up Freddy. He set that one up, he made it happen. That's a hook on Candy!
That's a great hook and a great play, and you know what? He might be able to take him down all in his own setting. The play doing the job, but the Ignite's stopping out. Will it be enough? Yes, it will! Nyph gets the kill.
That was very good play by Nyph. nRated was standing in front of his AD carry, and they didn't anticipate the hook coming in from behind. You know, barrier doesn't work very effectively against damage over time spells, so if you're that low, you're going to get dropped. Very nice play there by Nyph and Tabzz.
I wonder how that would have felt. The old support taking down his old AD carry partner who's defended for so many years, but it was Nyph that managed to get that kill in there. So, how do we see things leveling out here? It's a CS difference, a rather big one down that bottom lane. The fact that he has just died as well, it's only going to get worse. 67 to 47, both going back. Only a BF sword for CandyPanda, and now we see a BF and a long sword, along with those pots for Tabzz.
Yeah, I think quite luckily that CandyPanda had that CS built up already, so he's not going to get completely out-traded now. There's a little bit more damage on Tabzz' side in addition to Caitlyn's inherent range, but luckily they should be able to fight, and I actually think once CandyPanda and nRated hit level 6, Tabzz and Nyph cannot necessarily afford to play as aggressively. The burst in the kill potential of that Leona plus Jinx and an ultimate is very scary and difficult to deal with.
Meanwhile, the top laner Wickd, he's obviously built to his lane there. Gone for that chain vest along with the longsword, so he's just defending off the Dawn's Blade stack that Freddy picked up early on. Freddy's going to continue to bully him, but Wickd seems happy to just keep trading back onto his tower. Remember, he has gone down, which is why we're seeing obviously a CS differential in that top lane. Mid lane, well, Froggen is starting to edge ahead as well, because again, we saw Jesiz going down to shoot.
Yeah, small advantages here for each of the respective teams, but at the end of the day, Alliance have given themselves close to 1,000 gold lead. You kind of feel like Alliance have made one or two more plays, as it were, during the course of these opening minutes, and I have to give props to SK. They're holding even so far at the 10 minutes. Shook is going to look to interrupt that. Gank's coming in. That's a Skyfall as well.
He lands on him. Jesiz gets kicked straight in there. Pops on vulnerability. Now they jump on Shook. Shook just out of tower range, but it doesn't matter. The damage was there from SK.
Very good reply from Svenskeren. The moment that gank happened, he immediately started channeling that Grand Skyfall. I almost wonder if SK were aware of it.
Yeah, they pinged it.
Yeah, so I didn't see where Sven was standing and waiting. And like we said, the defensive power of intervention is very strong. nRated, he's got Tabzz!
He's going to Zenith Blade on towards Tabzz. Meanwhile, both AD carries back and forward, but the execute from CandyPanda takes him down, and now Nyph's running away from this one, and nRated just keeping him at bay. They got the minions there as well, but CandyPanda realizing Froggen was heading down the river.
Yeah, Wicked's going to be in so much trouble with Svenskeren now.
Well, he's got the pounce on him in a moment. He's going to try and jump away. Pops the ultimate. Is it going to be enough? They're trading him nicely on the turret. They will get the slow. Can he turn this one back around? The damage on Svenskeren, 2 more tower hits will come through, and he has to back off.
That was so good, stealing the defensive stats from Renekton, making him take more damage from the turret. It also heals Wickd when he throws down Subjugate. And as soon as he puts down the Frozen Domain, the W, he also gets a healing increase from his passive and from his ultimate. So very good play from Wickd on that Trundle. I think if SK had maybe gone a little sooner and not necessarily waited for all that tower damage, could have worked out a little better.
Well, that chain vest doing its job, just Lantern being scooped in there. Jesiz, meanwhile, has got Shook coming around the side once again. Sidesteps this time, kicks him back in towards Froggen. Tries to flash away. Is it going to be enough, though? It may well be. Shockwave's available. Ultimate already used. Sorry, Shockwave was not available, but it pulled out the intervention from Jesiz.
It's a minute and a half between cooldowns on rank 1 of that intervention. It is almost always up. The cooldown gets even lower as you level up, so I think Alliance maybe mistiming that intervention just a tiny bit. They maybe wanted to set that gank up a bit earlier. At the end of the day, managed no real loss outside of those summoner spells.
But again, it does force Jesiz to go back, and the CS continues to flow in Froggen's favor in that mid lane, which is why he's now backed off and got himself that Athene's and Holy Grail already. Meanwhile, the 2 AD carries, well, they're going for that Bloodthirster first item. No shock there.
No, nothing at all. And I think Tabzz is most likely going to go for that sort of Legolas build on Caitlyn as well, which we do see very often on Caitlyn players.
It was Tabzz that actually started it.
There we go. And in terms of your lane presence, all of a sudden, with nRated and CandyPanda being above 6, Tabzz and Nyph are a lot more defensive in this lane. They're not sitting pushing up hard. They're not trying to poke out CandyPanda and nRated because, as we said, of that burst potential.
Yeah, nRated's been landing their Zenith Blades. Freddy trying to farm between the two towers here, trying to keep the pressure on towards Wickd, but Wicked's not really having any of it. Does put that ward down to the tri-bush, and he's happy to just go and do the exact same.
Yeah, I actually feel like both of those top laners haven't backed in quite a while. I think they're sitting on quite a lot of gold. So if we have a look at those gold numbers, you'll actually see that Wickd has got 1,600 gold in his back pocket. Freddy's sitting on 1,900. So when they do decide to back off, they've caught Nyph.
Nyph tries to flare it out. Oh, he's going to get caught on the chompers. That's going to be the solar flare down as well. Zap catches on him as well. Oh, but the execute from CandyPanda not landing with the super mega death rocket.
Yeah, he just managed to sidestep the one. I think it was very apparent that CandyPanda was going to use that ability, and pretty good defensive play from Nyph and Tabzz. nRated is just going to keep doing that over and over and over, rinsing and repeating. And considering there was a 20 CS advantage for Tabzz earlier, I think CandyPanda has brought himself back into this lane very, very well.
Yeah, with the help of that start kills, assists by nRated, helping him lock down that AD carry. Froggen, well, he's taken the rates. No surprise there. This is something we've seen him doing since Season 2. Meanwhile, Shook, he's been looking for the kills all across the map. Yet to really pick them up, because everywhere he goes, Svenskeren's there to counter him.
Yeah, and I think this is actually quite smart. They realize the solar flare is most likely still on cooldown, so I think the decision-making from Alliance now to move in with that ability not being available is quite smart, but unfortunately the wave is pushing, so it would be a tower dive, which is ill-advised, and Shook is undecided. You see, he eventually just walks away. They're not strong enough, or they don't even have burst to dive under a tower.
Well, blue buff is up, which means they're going to have to head all the way back there and give that to Froggen. Wickd, meanwhile, returning to that top lane. Got himself the Bilgewater Cutlass now, along with the dagger to try and get some attack speed in there. Meanwhile, it's going to be the standard build for Renektons. Every Renekton in the world knows exactly what he's going to be doing here. Sunfire Cape, Spirit Visage.
Yeah, going to be working his way just towards that nice tanky stats, and there's a lot of physical damage on the side of Alliance, so you know, no real surprise. Freddy's doing well with this Renekton. He's got a 20 CS lead. He's got that assist on his name. Svenskeren is obviously able to help secure a kill in that lane. But SK now, they've got position on Dragon. They started this one off. We do know that the rest of Tabzz and Nyph have responded. There's no vision in this pit for Alliance just yet. Now they've put a ward down, but I think it's too late. Yeah,
they were too late. They saw the timing, actually. They saw Froggen stepping away from the mid lane, so they knew he was going for that blue buff, so they timed it perfectly. They're very well played and very well executed by SK Gaming. That gives them the goal advantage now. They are just about 1,500 in the lead.
This is actually, I think, the first time that we've seen SK really have a strong laning phase, I should say. I think we've had some good ganks from Svenskeren, focusing down Wickd more often than not. And CandyPanda, after his performance yesterday, he is playing like a machine. He hit over 500 CS with his Sivir, even though they lost to Super Hot Crew yesterday. If we can get to similar numbers on Jinx, he should have a lot more carry potential. Svenskeren, once again, I think he's in range for a Grand Skyfall, so maybe reading Shook, and we'll have to see if Shook pulls his trigger.
Yeah, I was wondering whether Nyph was waiting to throw that lantern back. Instead, Shook's going to back away, go for Golem. So, again, not able to set up those kills with that Lee Sin. And really, that's what you want to try and do early on. But as you mentioned, Svenskeren has countered him, and it seems to be working well. In terms of CS, well, there's an advantage in the top lane, but of course the mid lane advantage for Froggen balances those two out. And AD carry is very even so far.
You have to give props to Svenskeren. The moment Shook starts moving back towards the river, Sven was already moving down to this bottom lane. He's got his Skyfall ready. He's standing just in range. He started channeling it, and where's he going in?
Where's he jumping to?
He cancelled it.
Cancelled it himself. Of course, that will mean the cooldown is very short. We should be back up any second now, which is why CandyPanda, again, is pushed in there, waiting to see whether nRated maybe was going to pull the trigger. Of course, the Solar Flare paired with that Grand Skyfall would certainly be pretty devastating on whoever it landed on.
Yeah, and then just all of the damage that they've got to follow it up. So it's quite a scary combination on the condition nRated hits those skill shots. I think nRated hasn't had the strongest of performances. He's even called himself out, saying he's not playing at the level he feels he should be. So we got to make sure he actually gets those solar flares down and gets those zenith blades onto the right targets. Otherwise, the combo is not necessarily going to be as strong.
Froggen is starting to snowball a bit of a CS lead in that mid lane, because every single time he goes away, he's taking those rates. So you can't quite read into the gold, because obviously the small rates counting as a minion, only 4 gold, doesn't really stack up. But it is starting to get some big numbers.
Yeah, it's going to help Froggen out with his Sorcerer Shoes and his Athenes already completed at the 16-minute mark. He's going to get to those powerful Shockwave stage a lot earlier than some of the Oriannas we've seen during the course of the split. I also like the combination with Trundle and with Lee Sin, who can get into a fight, pull everybody together, make it quite devastating, and just allow the tanks up front to just have body blocking for Tabzz' Caitlyn.
Oh, Svenskeren is going to step across. They had full vision. And this is something actually SK Game have been doing very well so far, keeping vision of Shook. Absolutely everywhere he goes, they know exactly his position, and he keeps getting close enough just to get that Grand Skyfall if it is needed.
Yeah, decent wards here from SK. They've got 3 pinks on the map already. We'll keep an eye on how long they last. Grand Skyfall is being channeled. They want Nyph!
Oh, Nyph's going to flash away. It's not going to land. That is the ultimate use. Zenith Blade didn't quite catch in, but Nyph flash was used.
Yeah, again, trading an ultimate for a flash, I think that's still a successful gank. It makes Nyph now even more hesitant to push out in the lane. And this pink ward in the Tribush is a pretty good ward from Alliance. I almost like the pink wards a little deeper in your side of the jungle because they're permanent. You know where they're going to come in for things. Solar Flare!
Solar Flare on Nyph. Nyph's going to get caught out. He goes down. CandyPanda gets the executed game with the Super Mega Death Rocket.
No flash on Nyph. That means he's an easy target. You've got great tower diving with Leona and with Pantheon. Ooh, CandyPanda eats the Sonic Wave. Oh, I was wondering if there was execute potential for Shook. He's only got defensive stats though, so not enough damage to really guarantee that kill.
Zap catching on Tabzz. He's very low on mana as well. Can't really follow through. We're going to see Jesiz and Froggen going at it. Jesiz taking a big wave of damage there. Shockwave pulled, but intervention perfectly timed. Disrupts all the damage.
Yeah, Jesiz was just waiting for that spell animation to start. Avoids the damage, does manage to get out. And I actually like seeing Jesiz challenging Froggen. Even though he's a little bit behind in CS, he can trade evenly because of the damage amplification that Kayle has from her Q. So smart play from Jesiz, and we'll see how we can trade in these next few minutes.
Well, teleport was used by Wickd there. We'll see whether it's available just before the dragon. It is up in 1 minute 50, so it's going to be a very close timer if it gets stalled out, because I expect the next dragon to actually be contested over at the moment, though. Wickd going back to that top now with the Bilgewater Cutlass up against the Sunfire Cape and the
Spectre's Cowl.
Spectre's Cowl, that's the one I was after.
I'm going to be maybe a little rude here. You're expecting Dragon to be challenged by Alliance, and if Alliance do not challenge for it, they have gone back to week 1 where they didn't have vision, they didn't make calls, they didn't play for objectives. That's what cost them those 4 games during Super Week. So we'll have to see if they get any vision done, because as it stands, there's 1 ward very deep in the river for Alliance, and those pink wards covering Dragon and a little higher up, they've been sitting there for SK for a while now, so SK is going to be well aware of any intentions from Alliance.
Interested to see how that trade's going in the top lane. Back and forth. Grand Skyfall coming in, and it's going to be on Froggen. He's going to manage to get the stun down there. Shook comes straight in, gets the shield on him. Is it going to be enough though? Froggen have to flash away. Does get caught out. Jesiz, oh, it's a giant shockwave. Intervention comes in. Shook's going to get taken down. No, he gets safe. Super Mega Death Rocket comes in. The Ignite's not going to be enough to take Shook down, but it was a great trade nonetheless. Alliance go 2 for 1.
Yeah, very well played in that situation. I think Shook, once again, now realizing, hey, Svenskeren's responded to every single one of my ganks. Let's see if we can force his hand. Managing to land the counter gank, and the shockwave only became available during that fight. Froggen did not have it when he got jumped on, and as he flashed away, cooldown became available. He took the shot and managed to work out. With the kills they've got, now Alliance are getting some wards down, stealing a blue buff, potentially, unless nRated has anything to say about it, and they may set up for Dragon here.
Remember, Super Mega Death Rocket was just used. Shook taking low already there, has to back away, and that's going to be the Zenith Blade on towards Nyph. They get the stun down. CandyPanda follows through, hasn't got that ultimate available yet. And let's also count out, CandyPanda fired that ultimate from the bottom of the map. Yeah,
CandyPanda and nRated were moving towards the mid lane, but CandyPanda is just playing out of his skin yesterday and today. He's got himself his 3rd kill of the game, he's even on CS with Tabzz, and he's got that Bloodthirst and Zeal. Now, Dragon has been started. Alliance are going to try to contest. All of their ultimates are available if they want to, but it's going down just too quickly.
Well, Death Sentence was a mile clear, and Wickid's not even close to this fight. Now the Zenith Blade lad. Again, Nyph has to put it down. Solar Flare will catch on towards him. SK choose to back away from this one. They notice Froggen is back up, has that blue pot on him and the shockwave available. It means it will be another dragon for SK.
Yeah, well played by Wickd to actually roam down. If the fight had broken out, he would have been there, but unfortunately, because of that decision, Freddy's going to respond. SK Gaming pick up their first tower of the game. It's the top tower, which is more difficult to take down, and if CandyPanda is given a couple more minions, he should be able to even take this tower down in this next wave if he wants it.
Well, switcheroo, put some damage back on towards Tabzz with that red buff burning on him as well. Shook coming in for the blue buff to give to Froggen. Froggen will take that quite happily, and you know, with that trade going along, it kept Freddy with a big advantage in the top lane. And this bottom lane is getting really quite edgy. SK Gaming really starting to put the pressure on Alliance.
I actually think SK Gaming are far and away ahead in this lane right now. Tabzz has actually picked himself up that Cloak of Agility for the critical hit chance. If he gets a lucky critical hit, he can then carry on following it up with the damage. Caitlyn does not offer anywhere near the raw amount of damage that CandyPanda does. we do see Jesiz roaming to this bottom lane. Svenskeren's coming in range, most likely for a Grand Skyfall. So the focus is the tower. If anyone sticks around, I think they could even go for some kills if they wanted to.
Yeah, Froggen was actually trying to counter that one, passed it through, and this is something we talked about yesterday. We were talking about with Deficio, how Jesiz needs to start roaming, and that's actually what he's looking to start doing. He's trying to make some plays out for his team, and SK Gaming are looking very good in this one, obviously with a nearly 3,000 gold lead. Once a Kayle gets going, it can be very hard to stop. Froggen is going to have to really be on point with those shockwaves. Again, Zap landing onto Tabzz there. Nyph doing what he can to keep him at bay, but they keep on shoving them waves onto Alliance.
Yeah, we haven't seen a single large-scale fight, and I actually think that the way Froggen is playing his Orianna so far, he's probably going to have some good shockwaves, and we need to see who's going to have a bigger impact in these fights, Wickd or Freddy122, because once again, they've just been living on their island up in the top lane. A lot of gold to spend for many of these players, and the tower is still standing. Tabzz and Nyph have defended this for so many more waves than I was anticipating.
Well, Svenskeren's close by, but he was going to get it spotted out by that ward. That will be the tower going to SK Gaming. Second one of the game. There's the Zap landing on Nyph. They're going to wait their time in this one. CandyPanda keeps the damage onto Nyph. Grand Skyfall's going to come down. He's going to land on top of Nyph. Death Rocket does come in. It's Tabzz. He actually jumps up, but he has to back away. Death Center's coming in from Nyph. Shook comes flying in from the side. Doesn't manage to land anything, though, and they do back away.
So Flash is down on both Tabzz and Nyph once again. One Grand Skyfall getting the summoners from Alliance. What SK Gaming have been doing is they continue sieging after that, and then they go for the dive with the Leona once her cooldown becomes available. But as we said, there was a lot of money on the side of SK, so they're going to back away. Giant Spell picked up for nRated. He gets a lot of bonus armor and MR from his Eclipse, the W, so that makes his effective health even more effective. CandyPanda, a lot more additional damage secured.
Jez is not really worrying about Froggen's farm, despite the fact Froggen keeps on trying to clear those waves. Jez is just shoving them straight onto it. At the moment, all lanes seem to be going SK Gaming's favor, despite the fact there is that big CS difference. It's hard to counter because of those little wraiths they've been taking on there. But so at the moment, Shook once again is falling behind on Svenskeren. He's not really performed with all the hype that was surrounding him. Certainly after the Battle of Atlantic, he did fantastic against Dignitas, but once the LCS has started, he struggled.
Yeah, and you know, it's because of the fact that he hasn't been on champions that he has been able to make a play with. It's actually a similar situation as Impaler from Super Hockey.
Yeah.
When he's not on Vi, Impaler struggles, and when Shook, to be frank, is not on Elise, he's not as scary. This performance, though, is a little bit better. I think he's had some good ganks. He's actually countered Svenskeren relatively well, and he's been in place to defend the lanes that are struggling. So it's not all bad, but he's not necessarily helping Alliance win.
Well, that was the top lane pressure as well. Freddy continuing to try and shove on towards Wickd. Meanwhile, down the bottom here, we see the wave minions continuing to push on there. CandyPanda wanting to try and get some damage onto the inner turret, and they're going to have some free time here because Tabzz is all on his own. Meanwhile, the top lane, you can see Dominus was popped by Freddy. He's already taken that turret down, and he's giving chase on towards Wickd here. He's going to keep on going. The slice comes out and just forces him back.
Yeah, it's going to be so difficult for any one of these champions to kill each other because of the power of Dominus and because Wickd still had Subjugate available. Now that Dragon's up in about 1.5 minutes time and Teleport is available from Wickd, we'll have to see who's going to make a play for this one. Look at the lifesteal from Wickd.
Well, the AD carry is going a little bit different. Of course, Static Shift being picked up by CandyPanda. We just saw him taking the golems down there with it. Phantom Dancer, meanwhile, picked up by Tabzz as the second item instead of that last Whisper early on, trying to keep the pace with CandyPanda.
Yeah, and the mobility it also gives you is very important for Tabzz. Because Renekton and Pantheon are going to be diving onto him, I think the ability to just kite a little bit quicker with Phantom Dancer is going to help out. Now, Freddy slices once, dices twice, gets away for the time being.
Yeah, Resonating Strike will not land. Shook tries to get back on towards him, but he just backs away from this one. Now the red buff, though, is being stolen away. SK Gaming starting to have their wicked way with Alliance.
Froggen needs to respond a little bit more. There's so much pressure in this bottom lane. The moment Shook showed himself up top, SK instantly invaded. They stole every single camp in this bottom lane, and it does look like Svenskeren, they may want to go for a dive on this one. Grand Skyfall is available. He started the channel.
Tabzz is trying to get away from it. Nyph's going to get caught out. He's going to get separated. The choppers goes down. No chance there for Nyph. And that's all simply stemmed from SK Gaming coming in, taking the red. Froggen not really keeping the advantage and not following him through. They've got to be careful in their own jungle.
Yeah, and that actually stems from Shook being up in the top lane. They've caught Froggen out. He's forced to flash because there was a red buff in CandyPanda, so he's going to get the range from that rocket launcher. Dragon is up in 10 seconds. SK position on this one, and they should be able to pick it up fairly safely, knowing that Nyph isn't there to aid Alliance in a fight.
Yeah, 6 seconds, and that will be up. SK Gaming do have the time in, but they're more interested in the blue buff first. Jesiz will get that, keep that cooldown on. So Dragon spawn. Let's see if anyone goes for it. At the moment, SK Gaming, they're going to play it a little bit more cautiously this time. We do see nRated looking, setting up for a gank though.
I wonder if they're trying to bait in Alliance right now. Knowing Dragon's there, knowing Alliance are going to most likely check for it. You can see nRated still hanging out on the top. Wickd started to channel the teleport, and I think SK forced to back away.
Oh, he was in perfect position to go for Froggen there, but the rest of the team were unsure on it. Now they're actually going to try and come in for it. The Dragon is there. He keeps popping on and off. Trust me, it is there. Static Shiv will catch on towards him. Zap again. CandyPanda's going to get focused by Wickd. Ace in the hole comes through, lands on him as well. He's going to try and do the damage from the back. At the moment, nRated tanking all the damage. Now comes Freddy. He comes into the side. Solar Flare goes down. Catches on towards Nyph. Shook tries to go deep. Shockwave pulls in 3 members of SK Gaming, but it's not enough damage. Wickd is going to go down. Now they're going to chase on towards Froggen. That's going to catch on towards him. He gets dropped as well. It's a 2 for 0, and the Dragon still untouched right now. SK Gaming setting a beautiful trap.
That was actually such a great fight for both teams. Because Freddy was not in the area to have an impact on the fight, Alliance initially had won it out, but they didn't manage to make any plays with their ultimates. Tower in mid is down, Dragon secured. SK just shredded another tower.
2 towers and the Dragon. Giant gold turn there for SK Gaming, and just look at it. It's a 9,000 gold advantage to SK Gaming, shy of 30 minutes into this game. Alliance, once again, are looking torrid. They are just not playing as a team, and the lanes have all lost. This is not good news for Alliance fans.
The strength of Alliance was their individual player ability and their strength in lanes. And the weakness of SK was the exact opposite. They have traded superpowers for this game because SK have basically stuck in every single lane, and I think Svenskeren has helped each of them respectively, and they're doing phenomenal. Now SK has the most difficult job of actually closing the game out.
Interesting change from Freddy here. He's gone for the Last Whisper as his 3rd item.
It's just pure damage. I mean, if you're looking at Freddy, the fact that he wants to deal with Wickd, and the fact that Wicked's going to steal a lot of his armor and his stats that he's already got, he needs to have some form of damage. In addition to that, Tabzz has got not a lot of armor to deal with, so if Freddy gets into the back line, he can just destroy Tabzz even quicker.
Alliance have got 4 members in that mid lane trying to push it in there. They know that CandyPanda's down the bottom. He's going to wipe out that wave and keep that pushed up, while the rest of SK Gaming are trying to close in on them. They're going to chase on towards Jesiz. They will catch him. They kick him in there. He's going to use that intervention. Grand Skyfall's coming back in. Now it's time to evacuate. Shockwave pulls him in. Does manage to get Jesiz down. Froggen taking a hell of a lot of damage though from the side. Freddy comes in. That's going to be well, Froggen going down. Shook's going to be the focus, the target next. Can they catch on towards him? You bet your life they can. Freddy will pick that one up. Nyph's trying to back away at the side there. He has to flash away. Svenskeren will follow through, and he's going to get caught out as well. He's going to try and get away. He did manage to get a play down, doing what he can to try and help escape. Uses the hook again on towards the minions.
Vision.
But Svenskeren gets the vision, puts the ward down, hops on towards them, throws out another spear. They're continuing to chase. The whole team is coming up here. Nyph won't get away from this. Svenskeren will get himself a kill. And that is another 3-for-1 trade to SK Gaming.
3-for-1, and remember, Alliance picked that fight. They jumped into Jesiz to try and kill him as quickly as possible. And the time it took for intervention to time out was enough for that Grand Skyfall to come in. Look at the rest of SK Gaming. CandyPanda is in the bottom lane. Freddy's just coming from the Baron Pit, and a very good Grand Skyfall from Svenskeren. Also have to give props to nRated, landing a good stun on Froggen, preventing him really escaping as quickly as possible, and all of that burst damage just came from Froggen being locked up. So very, very good reactive play from SK, and I think they needed Wickd there. If Wickd had been there from the start of the fight, that could have gone a little differently because the tank didn't really have any impact.
Well, as it is, SK Gaming continue their snowball. Now 10,000 gold in the lead. 5-1 in turrets. I'll tell you what, when I was looking at these games the other day, this is not what I was expecting to be saying, that's for sure, when we did our research. And Alliance, again, they have fell back to week 1. They are just all in disarray right now. Do not seem to know what to do against this SK Gaming. And honestly, all those Barons in the jungle trying to take Svenskeren off his guard. His Pantheon has been on point. 5-1-4 now.
I'm so glad you actually highlight that. I think it's maybe a mistake to try and focus down Svenskeren so heavily. We talked about how important the LeBlanc was, and we talked about the potential of that Kayle, you know, that it could be played. Froggen tried it yesterday. Didn't necessarily work out. Now SK, with the strong advantage with 3 sweeping lenses, they are now moving around the map. They're doing the best they can to deny vision and gain control of this Baron pit. nRated's looking for a solar flare. They've caught Froggen.
They've caught Froggen now. Shockwave was pulled, but he goes down before CandyPanda just drops him down. It's nRated that picked up the kill. Skyfall coming in once again. Who will the man drop land on towards? Can they get on towards Shook? No, they cannot. But it doesn't matter, mid lane man is down.
Yeah, and I think with Froggen being down, SK could potentially go for Baron. Even if the objective is not to kill Baron, they could bait the rest of Alliance towards them, peel away, and then try to set up some kills. Intervention is still up for Jesiz, so we'll see how Alliance play this one out. Baron cost games yesterday. Look for SK. I'm expecting them to peel. I think they want the fight.
They're going to go on towards Wickd. They lock him up, and look at the damage on him. He is the tankiest member, and he goes down like a paper plane, and he just gets dropped. The Baron is now being focused on. They will take this one down. Shook desperately tries to come in. He's just too late, and he goes down as well. And that's another 3 kills. Alliance are dropping, and they just have no response to SK Gaming.
Shook had to try go for that steal. He needed to actually just at least do the smite. Wickd was killed so quickly and was stun locked for so long, he didn't even get subjugate off. He didn't even get the stats or the health from his ultimate. SK now have a 13,000 gold lead. They have Baron on 5 of their members, and they've got 20 seconds of basically free time to attack this tower. CandyPanda can shred this with the help of Jesiz so quickly.
Yeah, they're just going to tank this one through. Will go down, no problem there. Didn't need to wait for the minions. That's going to get dropped. CandyPanda a full item ahead of Tabzz as well because of all those global objectives they've been picking up, all the kills he's now picked up. That Guardian Angel's complete item well ahead of Tabzz in terms of it, and look at SK setting the trap.
They're right in front of the ward though, so Alliance are fully aware of the position. I actually like the fact that Alliance just carried on farming and tried to waste a little bit more of SK's time, but at the end of the day, you've got to give props to SK. They tried it and waited, see if Alliance move out. Now they've got an inhibitor down. I think they should push the other lanes, get those last towers, and if Alliance overstep their bounds, SK can win a team fight and close the game.
They have gone back up to the top, and Alliance are trying to take advantage here. They're trying to rush the mid lane, and it may actually catch them out of position, but don't forget, SK Gaming have got the Baron. They could just shove on straight down that top lane. They could outrace them.
Yeah, it looks like SK have decided to back away. They were actually a little bit scared of a base race, have decided to cancel that plan, realizing that Alliance did not push up, and the fact that Jesiz can defend and wave clear pretty effectively with that massive amount of ability power that he's got himself built up. Almost a death cap completed as well.
Yeah, the bottom wave shoving itself. Jesiz is going to clear out that middle wave, and the rest of SK Gaming is a 4-man over on this bottom inner turret. Top inner turret, and he's going to keep on pushing it through. They're pinging down on Jesiz. They know that he's there. Alliance are holding still low. They're going to go for Jesiz. They do get a lot of damage. Jason the Hole's going to come through. Just have to use the intervention to stop it. That means SK Gaming, they have to back away.
Yeah, SK were a little bit overzealous. They didn't have nRated with them for that sort of siege, and they need Leona's stuns and crowd control in order to win those team fights. So Jesiz gets poked down, forced away, and Alliance are going to at least hold on to that tower. I think a little bit of miscommunication maybe from SK. They didn't have the numbers and overestimating the power a tiny bit.
Yeah, Alliance forcing themselves in there. I don't know about overestimating the power. They are 14,000 gold ahead, 34 minutes in. They have quite a lot of power, but of course if you misuse that power, then you can still get caught out, as teams have found in the past.
So Svenskeren has decided HP, armor, defensive stats, not relevant nor important for Pantheon. Bloodthirster, Black Cleaver, Last Whisper, Spirit of the Elder Lizard. That's the de facto jungle Pantheon out, and it works. He's had such a good play. He's picked up the kills, and as long as he can burst somebody with the help of Jinx and Kayle, they've got so many ways to just execute you and carry on chasing.
And the difference is, obviously, he's not the one that's going in. We look at, say, Impaler, yes, he had to be the front man. He had to be starting the fights. Of course, it's nRated that's going in, which is why he's got no Banshee's Veil in there. Giant's Belt picked up. He's more than a support now. He is a full tank.
And with Baron almost timing out now for SK Gaming, they're just going to let those super minions group up inside the base of Alliance, and I almost expect them to tower dive. Svenskeren's sitting just outside of sight, so maybe a Grand Skyfall behind them with nRated starting. That's exactly what they're doing.
They're going to go straight up to Froggen. They already catch him Solar Flare, locking him completely up, and Froggen just goes down like he's not even there. CandyPanda doesn't quite get the execute that he wanted, but it doesn't matter. They've done the damage. The tower goes down. The inhibitors are dropping, and SK Gaming are just romping the way to victory over Alliance here, pushing through on towards the Nexus turrets. 3 members of Alliance desperately trying to keep them at bay, but the Baron is still on. nRated locks up onto Nyph. He's forced to back away. The Death Sentence only catches on a minion, and it's SK Gaming that take down Alliance for their 3rd victory. And wow, what a feeling it must be. Mixed emotions, I'm sure, for Nyph, because that's the team that he left, and nRated, who replaced him, really led his team to victory with a 1-0-10.